Welcome to the Veterans Voice, where we highlight services and programs for our veterans in the greater Houston area. I'm your host, Tim Stroud. The challenges of military service and the stresses of reintegrating into civilian life can trigger or aggravate mental health issues. Mental Health of America of Greater Houston is ready to help. We're joined by Kevin Penson, and he is the Veterans Treatment Court Peer Services Coordinator. That's a long title, but that's a big job. Welcome to the show.
Thank you, sir.
All right. You said, sir, but I work for a living. So, as a non-com, I get to say that. We've got a guest coming on later in the show. He is an RLO, a real live officer. Ooh, right? For those who are not familiar with MHA, Mental Health America, let's ease into the waters and talk a little bit about the services that you offer our veterans.
Well, the primary focus is mental health and the major depressive disorders which affect mental health. We handle everything under the gamut of that and what veterans deal with, including homelessness, mental health disorders, of course, and housing assistance.
Okay. Underneath that umbrella of mental health services, let's take one of those spines. Anyone you want to take first?
Let's talk about the homeless population.
Okay.
Houston has a large community of veterans that are homeless. And what we do is we take that for action, meeting the veteran where they are, and we identify by what they're needing in resource allocation. So let's say, for instance, the veteran may want to not be homeless. How do we get to that point? Okay, well, we ask that veteran what it is that they want to do. And a lot of times, by simple conversation of listening, that veteran may say, well, Kevin, I like what you're doing with your barbecue business. How did you do that? And I say, well, I went back to school. Have you utilized your Montgomery GI Bill? And it turns on a proverbial light switch. And that person says, no, I didn't think about that. And I said, well, hey, let's call up to one of the business colleges and let's get you enrolled so you can utilize those benefits. You've just changed the trajectory of that person's life because, one, they've accessed their benefits. Two, as soon as they're enrolled, they begin to access funds that are available to them, putting money in their pockets and changing their lives literally overnight.
Isn't it amazing that you can just say a simple word, and actually it's an acronym, barbecue. And first of all, my mouth just starts salivating because I start thinking about the Houston Livestock Stock Show and Rodeo. And some of the barbecue is absolutely amazing. Most of it, I don't like eating barbecue that's prepared for thousands of people. I want that boutique business that when you go in, you can't wear a suit because you're going to come out smelling like wood or charcoal or brisket, right?
That's right.
And so when you find that common denominator, you get to build that bridge for our veterans. And it's amazing what happens when we start talking. Do you have one of those stories to share?
Pertaining to
a success story that has happened through MHA with your veterans.
Sure. There's a gentleman by the name of Edward Sidney.
Okay.
And this gentleman came to me saying how he wanted to help veterans. So immediately what that did for me is it identified that I had a person, an individual, a veteran that I could utilize by giving him volunteer opportunity. I did that. Come to find out, he's connected to the Veterans Treatment Court as well. So basically with the same conversation, exact same conversation, in real time, identified my path to getting my bachelor's and getting my master's degree through AIU University, American Intercontinental University in Houston. He got enrolled. He is now within his third or fourth semester into his associates for business, and he's doing quite well. Tremendous success story.
I love to hear those.
Yes.
And so speaking of the Veterans Treatment Court, we've got about a minute left in this segment. Can you tease our listeners a little bit about the VTC and what it does?
So in a nutshell, the Veterans Treatment Court program is a comprehensive program um, that I head up through MHA and the Veterans Behavioral Health Team. It gives veterans second chance, and these are first offense, misdemeanor, and felony first offenses,
Okay.
first offenders, and it gives them a second chance as long as they're compliant. It's a sober program,
Mm-hmm.
so you cannot drink and you cannot do any kind of drugs. But as long as they're compliant, they phase. It's 4 phases, and it's for 1 year. Actually, that's the first actual phase, and then there are 2 additional years. And after total completion and compliance, their records are expunged.
I love that one. We'll definitely talk a little bit more about that after the break. And we're also going to learn more about mental health of Greater Houston.
When the last bell rings, don't stress about what comes next. At Houston Community College, we make your lessons matter. From healthcare to tech, or business to the arts. Open the door to HCC Real World Education, where passions become careers. Find more at hccs.edu and let your success take flight.
Dear Santa, I hope you are having a good day in the North Pole. Is it cold all the time there? Is that why your cheeks are so rosy? I bet all of your reindeer are very excited.
All right, guys.
Is your beard long? My dad's is scratchy. My mom says I'm a good helper. But you didn't come last year. Was my chimney broken? Or did you forget? I do that sometimes. I just really hope this year when I wake up, I'm gonna see that you came to my house too. Wow.
Donate to Toys for Tots and help the Marines deliver hope to a child in need.
Welcome back to the Veterans Voice. We're continuing our discussion with Kevin Penson, Veterans Treatment Court Peer Services Coordinator with Mental Health America of Greater Houston. We touched a little bit on the Veteran Treatment Court and the different phases. Let's keep going.
Okay, so you have 4 phases initially when the veterans are admitted to our program. And once they enter, you basically go phase 1, then you graduate to phase 2. In phase 3, you start a compliance portion,
Okay.
where you meet with me on every second Tuesday and second Thursday of each month. Okay. And I'm sorry, not the second, but the first. It's the first Tuesday and first Thursday of each month. And as long as that's a compliance factor. Once they meet that compliance, well, then they keep on graduating through the program.
Okay. And some people may not know how important it is for our mental health. I mean, too often times when we transition the military, one of the first things that is addressed is the physical aspect of it for a VA rating and everything that goes on. But with the mental health, it really ties into the veteran treatments court. And then you have different classes and activities and all kinds of stuff. How long is that program, Kevin?
The program,
Does it vary for the Veterans Treatment Court, or is it a set time and then they graduate?
well, like I said, the first portion of it is 1 year, but it's a 3-year program.
Okay.
And they have to remain compliant the whole way through. So they have their records expunged. That's that carrot at the end.
Yeah, it's very important.
Yes.
You know, that goes glove in hand with our homeless veterans because too many of them have those misdemeanors and something a little bit more serious from time to time. And there are reasons why they're not gravitating towards the shelters and the centers. and the housing that the government provides for them and other veteran service organizations. Did you want to touch a little bit more about the homeless population in the greater Houston area and what we can do to band together?
Sure. And that pertains to collaboration,
Absolutely.
networking, because the people we meet and the organizations they serve, they all band together to form a unit to help, because these are immense numbers that we're talking about. But when we go back to your question, it's very important that we meet the veterans where they are. Okay. Every veteran may not want the same type of help. So you have to identify, and it can be difficult depending on that mental health aspect, where that veteran is. But when we identify that there's a problem, a specific problem, and they want help, then that's when we can make a difference.
You also talked about collaboration, and that is muy importante, especially in Texas, because there are thousands of veteran service organizations as well as the government agencies that reach out with that helping hand. And if they don't work together, things go awry. And sometimes there's double dipping, or there's just that overlap of services. Sometimes it's needed, but a lot of times it's not. Do you have any premier partners that you work with?
Yes, sure. We have Combined Arms, Texas Veterans Commission.
Okay.
So the TVC actually certifies us to do the job that we do. The MVPN, which is the Military Veterans Peer Network. So myself and Edward Howard, we are the two representatives for the Houston region. So another one that we partner with is Veteran Affairs.
Okay.
Veteran Affairs is a focal point, and they help exclusively with resource allocation. So through these different partnerships, working together, that's how we push this initiative forward.
Okay. Besides getting in a little bit of trouble and going through the court system and having all the legal troubles, how would anybody else get in touch with you and find out more about the services that MHA provides?
You can contact me directly at 713-409-7397.
Okay. And do you have any programs going on for the rest of 2024 or anything monumental that you're working on for 2025?
Just continuing to grow.
Okay.
That's the major thing, because we have so many different things that we're doing out in the community, whether that's faith-based ministry. So we go into the churches. JIV is Justice Involved. So that's in the court and the jails.
And when you talk about jails, it's usually Harris County. So you're talking about Brothers in Arms. You're talking about Stars and Stripes. Both great programs.
Yes, Stars and Stripes. Not only do we collaborate with Harris County, but we've also graduated into Fort Bend, and we also have affiliates in Montgomery County too. So this is bigger than myself. It's bigger than our organization, the other organizations affiliated. It's us really walking in purpose and doing something that's meaningful to this huge veteran community in Houston.
I love that. Kevin, thank you for joining us today. And after the break, we're going to examine the healing power of the great outdoors.
When the last bell rings, don't stress about what comes next. At Houston Community College, we make your lessons matter. From healthcare to tech, or business to the arts. Open the door to HCC Real-World Education, where passions become careers. Find more at hccs.edu and let your success take flight.
Dear humans, this is an adoption campaign, but it's not for me, or Mr. Buttons, or Frank over there. It's for you, humans. This is a call to humans to adopt our movement, to adopt our cause.
This isn't just about saving one of us.
It's about saving all of us.
Thousands of lives, every single day.
It's about support for every one of us four, and sometimes not four-legged best friends waiting to meet a best friend of our own. With Best Friends Animal Society leading the charge.
Shelter by shelter, city by city.
We can save thousands of pets each day.
Join us.
Together we can save them all.
Things could be stranger, but I don't know how. I'm going through changes, through all of the strangeness. I'm going through changes now.
Welcome back to the Veteran's Voice. Fall and winter bring some beautiful weather to our state, and along with that, opportunities to share time with loved ones and friends. We're joined by Gary Bartels Jr., founder and executive director of Oath, and I'll let him tell you what that means. It's an organization that helps active duty and our veterans and family members find a better quality of life by connecting with nature and each other. Welcome to the show, Gary.
Thank you, brother. I am incredibly honored to be here.
Man, you know what, and this is the great thing about it, because outside of this box that I'm in right now, I get to go out into the great country of Texas and connect with amazing people like you. And I teased, you are an RLO, a reassigned officer. Tell people briefly about your military service and what Oath stands for, Gary.
Absolutely. I did 8 years active duty as an infantry officer, stationed in Fort Campbell, Kentucky with the 101st Airborne Division, did one tour to Iraq there with those guys, and then went up to beautiful, balmy Fort Drum, New York, and did my second combat tour with those guys, and then transitioned out of the military in 2009-ish, 2010-ish, and began the, I guess you would say, the reintegration into society, and that's ultimately, Tim, what led to the founding of Oath. I don't have the monopoly on the fact that when I got out of my service, I struggled with a lack of purpose and a lack of mission. And like a lot of veterans probably do, I tried to mask that lacking by alcohol and anger and things like that. And it was essentially a self-induced downward spiral. You know that. You heard my testimony. And my lovely wife, Regina, and I separated for a little while because I had to get myself lined out and reset my azimuth, man. And
Get
for
back
me,
on that road to recovery, right?
amen, my friend, amen. And two things helped me do that: my faith and the great outdoors. So my wife and I saw that, and that's how Oath was born. We decided to start this nonprofit ministry to help veterans, both men and women alike, who suffer from the same issues that I was suffering from, because I told my wife, I cannot be the only one that goes through this. So let's grip hands with as many good people and as many good organizations and help as many people as we can. So Oath was born.
And I thank you for sharing that personal and that professional story with us, Gary. Let's half step back and let's talk about Fort Drum for those who aren't in the know. It is so cold in Fort Drum. How cold is it? It's so cold that when Alaskans, the military that's stationed in Alaska, does their cold weather and severe outdoor training, they take them to Fort Drum.
Yes, they do. Yes, they do. They absolutely do.
And it is so, it's so beautiful up there, but it gets sub-zero. And if you have any qualms with nature, you'll quickly find out who's in charge and how to work things. And I've learned through that training as well that your faith, but also not into, also just a higher power in yourself and those around you. Those are the only three things that propel you forward. And that's something that you guys incorporate in us. So let's talk a little bit more about what you do in the countryside and in the community.
Yeah, absolutely. So Oath, what we do is we use the outdoors medium, Tim, to help these guys and gals, because there's a lot of different veteran service organizations out there that are all great. And what we try to do to differentiate ourselves is we get the guys and gals out on different outdoors events. We call it adventure therapy. So it might be a hunting trip or a fishing trip, but we also might do some horseback riding, or we might do some four-wheeler riding. We took them out to our Oath lease in Southeast Texas, and we had a professional forager come out that for an entire weekend, he walked us through our 2,300 acre lease and showed us what we could and could not eat and how we could prepare it.
Oh,
So,
wow.
yeah,
That
man,
sounds really interesting right there. That is some survival skills that everybody needs.
it was absolutely phenomenal, man. And it goes back to the whole adage. It doesn't always have to be about putting an animal on a wall or putting a fish in a cooler. What it has to center around is camaraderie and fellowship. And that's what we try to do. A myriad of different outdoors events, whether it's a barbecue, we know that barbecue is good, cook off, picnic, there again, camping. We do anything that has the outdoors involved in it. Could be a baseball game, anything like that, man. It's just getting some good, clean, fresh air and some good fellowship under the belt. That's what really wins the battle.
Gary, you've got some great activities out in the community and the countryside, like we talked about. What's the impact of those activities on the veterans, their family members, and the community?
Speaking from our Oath Heroes, man, I regularly send out an email through our database and just ask the guys and gals, hey, if you got a testimony that you would like to share with the public as to how the Ministry of Oath is helping you, please just reply to this email and let us know. And some of them reply and some of them do not. And the ones that do reply, sometimes they tell us they would like it to be an anonymous testimony. And when we get those are kind of great because they allow those guys or gals to really be completely transparent. We had one young man that underneath anonymity replied back and told me his testimony. And he said, last year you took me on a turkey hunt in the hill country. And the moment that I received your email about the turkey hunt, he said, I was sitting on my kitchen floor with a 9mm in my hand and the magazine, the clip in my other hand. He's like, I was probably at the lowest point in my life that I've ever been. My family was struggling. I was struggling with alcohol and drug addiction. And I was praying to the Lord that something would come through that would help me reset my azimuth. And he said, within 30 seconds, your email hit my phone. And it really, and that stirred me, man. That really stirred me because that's just one instance of a guy that was searching for something, searching for his faith again, searching for camaraderie again. And the Lord put that email in his inbox at the most specific and opportune time, man, that I truly believe we saved his life.
And thank you, Gary. That is a great story. Too often times that people don't realize that when you're part of the military, doesn't matter if it's Army, Navy, Air Force, Marines, Coast Guard, or the newest Space Force, is that you're part of a tribe. You're part of a group of people that is your kind of crazy, if you will. And yes, I mean, I'm not supposed to use that word with mental health, but at the same time, it really is. You have to have people that love life and really dig in with their hands and get dirty.
Yeah.
It has to be somebody that, doesn't look like you, talk like you, sound like you, or doesn't prepare food like you. But those are your adopted family members. And when you exit the military, sometimes we just scatter and we bear that burden like you talked about. And that is not our cross to bear. And too often times, those veterans who get out in 2024 still feel like Frank Buckles. And he was the last World War I veteran, had the honor of interviewing him. But he really did feel like the last one. And he loved to tell his stories. And that's why it's so important. And that your group does a lot of storytelling as well, right?
Yeah, we do. We sit around the campfire, man, and I tell people all the time, some of our greatest trips out to hunting camp, a trigger is never even pulled, an animal is never brought into camp. We just sit around the campfire and we all talk about experiences that we've had and challenges that we've faced, because what I like to tell the guys and gals, Tim, and I know you'll understand this, is there's going to be someone sitting around that campfire who's going through what you made it through, and they need some advice on how they can make it through it. So I think it's imperative to have those conversations around a campfire and in a counseling session, like Kevin said. You talk to these guys and gals and you really start peeling the layers of the onion back and saying, hey, I'm glad you joined us on this fishing trip, but now let's talk about your family. How can we help? What's going on? How do you need prayer? How do you need assistance? So to your point, those are vital, absolutely vital.
And you mentioned family members. Currently, about 85% of the military is male and 15% is female. However, the ladies are rising in the ranks and getting there pretty quickly. What about the spouses and partners for those who haven't served? Do you have any special programs for them?
We absolutely do. My loving wife and seeing the struggles that I faced in the military, knew that she wasn't the only spouse that had those challenges as well. So Regina started our Warrior Wives program. And what they do is they get together on, it might be a beach retreat, it might be just a simple dinner out, it might be a trip to the hill country to do a wine tour, something of that nature. And the beautiful thing about this program, Tim, is when Regina comes back from one of those trips, she does not tell me what was spoke about on those trips. She might just come back and say to me, hey, I talked to Gary's wife, and Gary's going through a really tough time. You should reach out to him and see how he's doing. Maybe take him on a hunting trip or a fishing trip. So I think we all know this. The easiest thing for us troops to do is pack a bag and do what we're told, man.
Yeah.
The hardest thing for those spouses to do is to become the other parent, to become the mechanic, to become the plumber, to become that person who is left with all the parental responsibilities when that other parent deploys. So I think it's a vital gap that needs to be filled by supporting the spouses, especially the women, with that 15% deviation there. I think it's important to do stuff for our spouses, man. That's vitally important.
I'm laughing because you are so right when it comes to I'm thinking all the funny stories from spouses that I get of how they are impacted when they go to your program, MHA, Easter SEAL, stay tuned.
Yes.
And they come back and I need that one story that changed them. It didn't have to change their life, but it changed their trajectory and got them back on that program. And speaking of programs, Gary, how do people apply for the Oath programs?
It's very easy. You can go to the website of www.oathinc.org/AP, and that's spelled www.oathinc.org/AP. That'll take them right to our application process, and they submit the paperwork, and then they go on a database. And whenever we have a trip coming up, I send out that email and it goes to everyone in the database, and they can take a look at it. And if they want to join us for some fellowship, come on and join us.
Thank you very much, Gary. We were joined by Gary Bartels Jr. of the Oath Foundation. And if you would like more information on any of the organizations that you saw and heard about on our program today, visit our website at hccs.edu/Veterans Voice. To listen to a podcast version of this show, visit hccs.edu/podcast. For everyone here at HCC TV, thank you for joining us on the Veterans Voice.